Time again for Doc Jacques, your Addiction Lifeguard podcast. I am Dr. Jacques de Broekert, a psychologist, licensed professional counselor, and addiction specialist. If you are suffering from addiction, misery, trauma, whatever it is, I'm here to help. If you're in search of help to try to get your life back together, join me here at Doc Jacques, your Addiction Lifeguard, the Addiction Recovery Podcast. I wanted to be real clear about what this podcast is intended for. It is intended for entertainment and informational purposes, but not considered help. If you actually need real help and you're in need of help, please seek that out. If you're in dire need of help, you can go to your nearest emergency room, or you can check into a rehab center or call a counselor like me and talk about your problems and work through them. But don't rely on a podcast to be that form of help. It's not. It's just a podcast. It's for entertainment and information only. So let's keep it in that light, all right? Have a good time, learn something, and then get the real help that you need from a professional. Well, it's the holidays again, and so that means we're in some troubling territory for people sometimes. So if you're in recovery, or you're trying to work on recovery, or you're a family member of somebody who's in recovery, this is going to be a relevant and timely podcast for you if you're listening to the most recent edition of it. Holidays. Dry holidays in a wet world. And what in the world do you do? So, listen, you can't make the world sober. Your sobriety is not going to make the world sober. But what can you do? You can make some wise choices about exposure or your expectations, and sometimes exiting when you need to during the holidays. And how do we do that? You know, people in recovery, and for families trying to protect the person that's in recovery, that holidays can feel like being surrounded by a world of troubling water, where everywhere you turn, you're seeing alcohol. Alcohol at parties, alcohol at dinner, alcohol as the solution to your stress and your discomfort, celebration, grief, anything, right? So you're normalizing drinking, or you're in the world of normalized drinking, and it's everywhere, and that's a problem. So when you feel uncomfortable and you're around alcohol, that's a triggering event for you. So you got to keep sight of that. So why are the holidays such an especially risky time? Aside from the obvious. So alcohol is socially kind of mandatory at times, like you're going to have a toast, or somebody buys a special bottle of something and you're supposed to be drinking it, and you're not the one that's drinking it because you can't, or you shouldn't. So there's some issues, and the problem is when I've noticed around the holidays, it's always somebody's you're trying to hold it together, right? But you run into these situations where you have been working on your sobriety, and other people may not be aware of that. Or even the ones that are aware, a lot of times they're finding out, in that moment, perhaps, or maybe just days before. So if you are in a position where you have to decline a drink from somebody who's trying to get you to drink something, that can raise suspicion, and you feel that. So your sobriety becomes very visible. So the pressure to disguise as just one, it's disguised as just one. I'm just going to have one, and you know where that goes. And we live in a culture where not drinking makes other people uncomfortable. That's kind of how they live their lives. That doesn't mean that's how you're living your life, but and frankly, you'd never know why they're uncomfortable. You're not drinking where before you were. Well, they drink, and now they're feeling self-conscious about their drinking. Or maybe this is like a reminder of what it was like when they were growing up, like in my family, where drinking was a social event, and so during the holidays, drinking was a regular thing. But you do not know why that person that you're refusing to drink from is feeling uncomfortable, but they might. They also might be supportive of you not drinking, and maybe you'd be surprised by that. But the shame that you can feel by the fact that you're not drinking is something is going on inside of you, and it's not necessarily seen around you. So the emotional load is a lot higher at these times. And that's when the old stuff can start coming out. Family wounds start to resurface. Grief gets louder, Expectations of your not drinking start colliding with the reality of the situation of not drinking. And so there's a lot of emotionality around this time of year, and it's difficult to figure out how to navigate through that. Here's something that does happen to people. They start getting this sense of false confidence in their early recovery. They think they can go into this situation and they can handle it. Or perhaps because you're new to recovery, if you are new to recovery, you really had no idea that this was going to be a thing. You didn't even know what to look for. This is the first time you're running into it. Maybe you started working on sobriety, in the last few months, and you had no idea what you were getting yourself into. You just kind of didn't really put much thought into it. Or you put too much thought into it, and you had this complete false sense of reality, and you said to yourself, oh, I got this. I can do this. And then you find out, I ain't got this. That's kind of where it goes. So you're kind of testing your limits too. Sometimes people do not know that they should be saying, I can't go to that. And maybe even just coming up with some excuse like I'm not feeling well, so I can't be there. It's really nobody's business as to why you're struggling with the idea of being at something, but you're testing your limits sometimes. And so you have this this overinflated sense of confidence that you think, oh, I'm going to be fine. And I can be in the presence of this and people pressuring me or peer pressure or just, I'm going to feel comfortable in a crowd when I normally know I can't feel comfortable. I'm going to test that. Overestimating your resilience. Maybe you thought that that whole thing about like, I got this, maybe that spread into the thinking of I'm stronger than this. I'm stronger than my addiction. And that kind of breaks the tenets of the AA idea of this addiction is more powerful than I am. Because, the reality is not just an AA thing, but the reality is this addiction, man, it was taking you out at the knees. And if you were stronger than the addiction, you would have just been able to say, oh, okay, I'm done drinking. And you would have stopped. And if it's drugs, the same thing. Weed is a particularly troubling thing now. And oh God, the president wants to reclassify marijuana. It's going to happen. I know that, but people underestimate the effect of weed and that it's actually so devastating to people and very addictive. But your confidence comes back faster than the capacity does, and that's an issue. The confidence is an issue. Overconfidence, false confidence. I'm overly confident. It's the arrogance thing I talk about all the time. In addiction, arrogance is the thing that is the biggest, most powerful weapon that addicts carry around to keep people away and to push away the recovery. So that's from the addict side. What families sometimes get wrong, and they often get wrong, assuming that exposure builds strength. Now, sometimes addicts believe this too. Like, I'm going to desensitize myself to the pressures of getting in situations where there's alcohol. It's part of the I got this syndrome. But assuming exposure will build strength. And you know what? If you're listening to this and you have a loved one who's an addict, exposure does not build strength. Recovery is not exposure therapy. That's not the issue. It's not that they're fearful of it like somebody who's got panic disorder. Early sobriety requires protection and boundaries around addiction. I tell my clients all the time, especially this time of year, if you are going to be in a situation that makes you feel uncomfortable, and uncomfortable in this case would be something that's like shame, self insecurities, too much self-awareness, too much self-consciousness. You're feeling uneasy about it, even though you haven't even gone. Maybe it's a week ahead and you're already thinking about it. Listen, do not go. And for family members who are thinking that, oh, well, I'll help them be the guardrails around this. It's like, listen, you have no idea what the addict is going through in their head. But trust me, it's a lot worse than you think. So the shaming is the issue. You can't, like if a family member is saying, like, you can't avoid life forever. You got to get in there. You got to be able to do this. Listen, trust me, there's not an addict who's telling another addict that. It just doesn't happen because we know that's not true. We don't try to pressure other addicts into being exposed to this. Not saying things like, yeah, you can't avoid this forever. You have to learn to deal with it. That's statements made by non-addicts to somebody who's trying to work on recovery. And that's a shaming that you go through. When you make those statements to somebody, you're shaming them. They're weak. And what you're focusing on is that failure of willpower nonsense. So don't do that to your loved ones. You yourself, if you're saying that to yourself, and I've had people come in here and say this who are working on recovery, I'm going to have to learn how to deal with this. Well, this is not the time. If you're early in your recovery, this is not the time. 2 years from now, yeah, you're going to be able to deal with it. Trust me, you will know. And you'll also be smart enough and wise enough and have enough knowledge that you'll know when it's time to duck out of something because I'm not feeling it today. I do not know. I do not need to be around this. You'll know. But right now, if you're early in recovery, you have no idea. Your little arrogance meter is still going off. And, so saying to yourself those same things, like you can't avoid life forever. You gotta do something. You're going to have to deal with this in the future. I'm sure you could be saying that to yourself. Just stop it. So what does this say about you? So the appearance, prioritizing the appearance over safety. You're putting something in front of your recovery. And as we all know in recovery, the most important thing in your life is your being clean and sober. That is the most important thing. Keeping traditions intact of being around family at all cost puts that in front of your sobriety. Avoiding discomfort instead of danger. You're putting your discomfort in front of your sobriety. Well, guess what? When you put things in front of your sobriety, that means sobriety second. My wanting to avoid discomfort by not showing up at something that's a family event or a corporate event or whatever, well, guess what? You're gonna probably relapse or you're gonna have an accident. Keeping traditions intact, we always go to grandma's house or the party. Yeah, but grandma's house always is full of alcohol. And you're not in that place right now. So you're putting that in front of your sobriety. Well, guess what? You're going to lose your sobriety. So the idea of teaching somebody something is one thing, but the rules about engagement are really dependent upon you following guidelines. Being around alcohol early in sobriety is not a good idea. Being around friends who are using weed all the time is not a good idea. If you're trying to stop, you cannot be around it. Your arrogance will tell you you can. Reality will tell you, in the end, you can't. So there's some rules for a dry holiday, and I would like to go over those rules with you. So number one, let's see. Avoidance is not weakness. It's not. Skipping events is a strategy. It's not fear. It's one of the tools that you're using to allow yourself to still be free from your addiction. Distance sometimes is the best intervention. So distance from the event or the people for this time, for this year, this one time. Fortunately for us, Christmas, Hanukkah, New Year's, it only comes around once a year. You got 365 days to work on this. Next year you can come back stronger and maybe you can engage in it. Just because you can go doesn't mean you should go. Sometimes it means the opposite. So let's go over that again. Rule number 1, avoidance is not weakness. Rule number 2, you got to plan. You must have a plan. If you're going to go, plan your entry and plan your exit. How long are you going to stay? Who are you going to be with? Like, who are you going to be around? Where are you going to sit? And what is your exit? And especially if you're coming with somebody else, what's the cue for the exit? The strategy of doing that is something that I go over with my clients who are less than a year in recovery and the holidays roll around. How long are you going to stay? If you've gotten past the idea that, okay, you're going to go, and if you're going to go, and it's not, you're required to go, bring a sober companion. And if you're going to go with a sober companion, you got to have these things already laid out. How long are you going to stay? Who are you going to be with? Who are you going to be sitting near? Who are you going to be around when they're there? And what is the exit cue with your sober companion? So bring a spouse, bring a friend, bring somebody in recovery that's supporting you, and know what that is. So you can't just go in a hope and a prayer. It's not going to work. Hope is not a plan, especially during the holidays. It's not. So use these things, the structure of deciding in advance, strategies. How long, who you're going to be with, and what's the exit cue. You might only be there for an hour. You might only be there for 45 minutes. You made an appearance, you fulfilled the obligation, and then you're out. Rule number 3. Individuals don't get sober and clean. Families do. Groups do. Couples do. So families must hold that line together. Mixed messages can undermine recovery. If you are a family member of someone who has an addiction issue and they're working on recovery, I really hope to God that you're helping them in their recovery and you're not undermining. But mixed messages can undermine that recovery. So if you are saying to the person, oh, you know what, I understand. It's not a big deal. Okay, if you want to have one, that's fine. Or the shaming thing. Oh my gosh, I can't believe that you can't go. Or whatever. That's undermining. That's a mixed message. And that's going to undermine their recovery. One person sneaking drinks for others creates risk. One person can undermine your drinking by sneaking one to you. The enabler is a huge issue, and many, many times, because during my interventions, I'm trying to figure out who's the chief enabler in the family, because almost always there's somebody. So if that one person, maybe there's somebody who is always your drinking buddy, and you're going, this is a family member, Aunt Sarah and I always drink together. All right, you need to stay away from Aunt Sarah, because that one person who's going to sneak you that drink is going to create a risk. Alignment matters more than tradition. Okay? Who is in the family? Who is aligned with who? And are you all aligned together to work towards that person's recovery? You all must be on the same page. This is where it gets so incredibly difficult for families, because there's so many family politics that goes on in families, trying to figure out, like, hey man, this person's trying to get sober. I appreciate that. Half the family doesn't really care. Or, as some of my clients have encountered, their family, they come from a family of alcoholics and drinkers. And that's really problematic if you're trying to get clean and sober. And so the tradition of we gather and we drink, or we gather and we get high. Well, that's not a gathering you should be in. And those people are going to undermine your recovery. So the strategies for people in recovery: bring your own drink. Drive yourself so you can exit when you need to. Have a rehearsed response to the request for, hey, do you want a drink? Would you like me to get you a drink? Stay connected to the support. So, sponsors, peers in recovery, meetings before and after an event. They're key elements to the protection that you need to engage in to keep you from relapsing. So the drink, bring your own drink, or use the universal sober drink, which is seltzer water, cranberry juice, and a lime. Every bartender knows that's the sober drink. So if you walked up to, if there's a bar, let's say, and you're going to a corporate event, if you go up to the bar, this is the strategy I tell my clients to do. Go up to that person who's at the bar, who's tending bar for the event, slip them a 20, slip them a 50, and say, look, you see my face? I want you to remember me, okay? Maybe you wear a flower in your lapel or something so they can trigger some memory there. I want you to never serve me alcohol. I am in recovery, and you're not going to give me anything to drink, all right? When I ask you for a drink, I don't need to be telling you what it is, but it's cranberry and club soda and a lime, or a Diet Coke and a lime, or a 7-Up and a lime, or whatever it is, but it's non-alcoholic. And if you tip that person and you say, hey, look, here's a 20, and at the end of the night, I'm going to give you another tip, all right? I do not want to have to ask for the drink. Just look at me, and when I put my finger up, you just give me that drink. And you know what? It's really funny because bartenders, they like that, because you're tipping them, and you're not creating problems, but they do appreciate it. And sometimes bartenders are in recovery, but they get it because they're around alcohol all the time, right? So that's the strategy I tell people to do. Whether you're at a conference or you're at a holiday party or wherever, if there's a bartender, do that. It works every single time. Driving yourself gives you a chance to be able to exit early if you have to. You use the kids as an excuse. Use the wife or the husband as an excuse. Hey, we have to go. The babysitter, we're not, my wife's not feeling well, got a headache, whatever. You can just duck out. And, there's going to be so many people, hopefully, that you're not really going to be missed easily. So that's one thing. But the other one is the rehearsed response of like, I'm good, thanks. I'm not drinking. Sometimes, listen, hey, I'm on a medication and I can't drink. That's a how are they going to argue with that? No, I'm good. And the other thing I tell people is never have an empty hand. If you're an alcoholic and you walk around with an empty hand, people are going to constantly be coming up to you saying, hey, can I get you a drink? Have something in your hand the whole time, all the time. And make sure that if you feel like you're in danger, you have somebody to reach out to. So I've had people text their sponsors while they're at the event saying, I'm getting panicky. So for families, listen, alcohol-free zones or events, that's great. Smaller gatherings. Earlier start times helps, because people tend to drink later. When they're there later, they tend to drink more. Permission to leave without explanation. You know what? John, if whenever you want to go, you can. You don't owe me anything or an explanation for protecting recovery. You don't. It's your recovery. It's not theirs. So when you get pushback from people, expect minimization. Expect jokes. Expect guilt. When you push back, the people who benefit from your old behavior will struggle with your new boundaries more than anybody else. And so what you're doing is you're teaching your family. You're teaching your family about, no debating. There's no defending. You're teaching them. Like, I'm not defending my recovery. I don't need to explain to you. I don't need to defend it. I don't need to debate it. And if it gets to that point, hey, there's your exit cue. Sometimes the best choice is not going. Missing a holiday is it's better than missing your recovery. It's not missing love. Protecting sobriety means protecting future holidays, right? Something that is the most loving thing you can do is stay away from the edge. And if it means you're in a dangerous position because of your problem with alcohol or drugs and you feel at risk, don't go. Please don't go. They may be upset in the moment, but hopefully you'll be able to teach them that, listen, it's my recovery and it's better than me using. And sometimes they don't get it. Sometimes they're not going to get it, and that's perfectly fine. The wisdom is in knowing your limits, right? But sometimes that requires experience and knowledge. And if you're early in recovery, you don't have any wisdom. Trust me, you don't. You have very little experience, and each experience gives you more knowledge. Your wisdom comes from a gathering of knowledge. It doesn't come from a gathering of experience. So wisdom is knowing your limits. Pride is pretending that you don't have any. You think you're impenetrable. You're impervious to any problems. So it's not going to happen. So temptation is always around. You don't need to test yourself. You need to be a good steward of your recovery. Pay attention to it. So it's more important that you're alive and you're healthy, sane, stable, and sober over you appearing in an event. If something does happen, and stuff does happen, we have accidents. If you have an accident, not a relapse, it doesn't go on for weeks, but you have an accident, listen, it's okay. It's fine. Don't panic. Don't go into rescue mode. Don't go into shaming. It's fine. Stuff happens. That's why I call them accidents, because accidents happen. And they will happen to you. I promise you. Every addict has an accident. Some have multiple accidents. Some even relapse while they're having accidents and relapses. It's just part of recovery. You got to just kind of re-anchor, get your structure back around you, be accountable. It gives you an opportunity to practice self-forgiveness. But one bad moment doesn't erase your progress, but ignoring it can. And so if you have to go back into the rooms and you have to pick up your 24-hour chip, maybe you've got months in and you or years, you got to pick up that 24-hour chip. In my office, I tell my clients, listen, that doesn't reset the clock for me. A relapse does, but an accident does not. That's part of the learning experience. But you got to get anchored again, right? So you cannot make the holidays safe. You cannot make choices. You can make choices that are safe. You cannot make the holidays safe. They're dangerous. And sometimes the bravest decision is not jumping into this mess, just avoiding it. Like, don't go. So show yourself some grace. Be prepared. Look for that support. And understand that the holidays, it's a limited amount of time. There's a lot of emotion around it. Maybe there's a lot of negative history around it. Like in my family, holidays, for me, it was a huge problem. So I just didn't engage in them. And by that, I mean, not my family I created with marriage and children. I'm talking about in my birth family, my family of origin. So just show yourself some grace. Accept God's grace, forgiveness. Encourage yourself and encourage others around you. Be prepared, have support, and change your life. So the holidays are problematic and troubling. Yes. Does it equal failure? It does not need to. If you have an accident, Doc Shock is telling you it's okay. Don't panic. It's part of the learning process. And now part of the learning process with the accident is going to be learning how to forgive yourself and to extend grace and to ask for forgiveness. And you will be forgiven. Remember, he's on that cross and he suffered for our sins. Don't let your sins be unforgivable. They are forgivable. Well, that's it for this edition of Doc Shock, your addiction lifeguard. I hope you've enjoyed this podcast. Stay safe for the holidays, please. And if you need help, you can reach out to me. You can reach out to me through my website, wellspringmindbody.com. Or you can call me. My phone number's all over the internet. If you need immediate help, go to a rehab. This is a tough time of year, man. And I hope you can hold it together. And if you're early in recovery, good. Stay there. If you need other things, you can always go to a rehab, go to a counselor, go to a meeting, please. Get a sponsor. Start working on your recovery. And remember, it's not how many times you fall down, it's how many times you get back up. This is Doc Shock, your addiction lifeguard, saying until next time, see ya.